powerful sleep tool we can have is an understanding of our child's sleep biology. Wait, before you tune out, I'm going to focus on the information we can really use. So what actually makes a child fall asleep? There are two things: sleep pressure and circadian rhythm. I'll tell you more about these, but first I want to emphasize that children vary greatly on both of these things. Through these videos, I'll show you the mechanisms that operate across all children. Then through my free email series, I can help you to understand how this applies to your child. So let's start with sleep pressure. This is the need for sleep that builds and builds the longer you stay awake. If you've ever pulled an all-nighter or had a sick child, you're very familiar with sleep pressure. It may be 7 a.m. in the morning when you usually get up, but all you want to do is sleep. I'll show you.
For a 2-year-old napping once a day, sleep pressure might look something like this. It builds and builds while they're awake, then drops off when they sleep. If they didn't sleep, that line would just keep going. Notice that the higher the sleep pressure, the sharper the drop-off when they finally fall asleep. This is significant for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it explains that frustrating situation where your child is absolutely exhausted, falls asleep for 10 minutes in the car, and then won't sleep when they get home. That sleep pressure has been alleviated a lot by just the short sleep. Secondly, if children have become overtired, they spend longer in deep sleep to recover the sleep pressure faster, and it's in this deep sleep that night terrors and sleepwalking can be an issue. So if your child is prone to night terrors or sleepwalking, you're more likely to have these issues arise within the first 3 hours of falling asleep, especially if your child has built up extreme sleep pressure. For younger children, sleep pressure builds more rapidly than for older children. Thus, they need to nap during the day. An older child who doesn't need a nap might have sleep pressure build more like this. I couldn't find any research on this, but I suspect that sleep pressure also builds more rapidly when your child is exposed to a lot of activity and stimulation during the day. So an older child after a very active morning might have sleep pressure build up more similar to that of a younger child. One measure of sleep pressure is how quickly children fall asleep. As children get older and older, sleep pressure builds more and more gradually, and it becomes harder and harder to fall asleep in the middle of the day. So they start to drop naps or take longer to fall asleep at nap time, therefore pushing nap time later and later. So, if your child started taking longer and longer to fall asleep at nap time, it may be an indication that he or she is almost ready to drop that nap. The sleep pressure in the middle of the day might be getting closer to the orange line. Similarly, if your child is taking a long time to fall asleep at night, it may indicate that with the current nap time, your child needs a later bedtime. It can be useful to imagine a sleep pressure threshold, though it's probably an oversimplification. You can imagine if sleep pressure builds up to or beyond the green line, there is adequate sleep pressure to sleep, assuming there's not too much stimulation, your child feels secure, safe and comfortable. If conditions aren't great for sleeping, they may still not fall asleep until sleep pressure builds up to the black line. If sleep pressure is below the green line, your child cannot and will not sleep, even if all other conditions are optimal, until their sleep pressure reaches that green line. And the further that is, the longer it's going to take.
It can be easy to feel angry at our kids when they refuse to go to sleep. I know. But bedtime resistance is actually associated with lower sleep pressure. Sometimes it is that our kids are genuinely not tired enough to fall asleep, and they don't yet have the patience to wait for ages in their bed. That's why understanding our child's sleep biology is so important. If we can predict when they're most ready for sleep, we'll have more success with whatever sleep approach we use. So given that sleep pressure builds and builds, does that mean the later you put your child down to sleep, the easier it's going to be? To some extent that's true, but you probably realise it's not that simple. I've mentioned how night terrors can become more of an issue when your child's sleep deprived. You're probably very familiar with the behavioural issues you get with tired kids. But then there's also the circadian rhythm. But I think that's enough information to take in for now, so I'll save the circadian rhythm for the next video. The interaction between sleep pressure and circadian rhythm is really powerful. It can predict when, how long, and how well our child will sleep. So I've created these videos for my email subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do so by just clicking here. This will give you access to video 2 on the circadian rhythm and my free sleep mapping email series, which will help you to figure out what's going on in your child's situation. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you.